Hi, I'm Barb Owen-Borger with Koochiching County Community Television, and I am here today in the KETA office down in downtown International Falls. KETA standing for Koochiching Economic Development Authority.
You got it.
It's a mouthful. Everything in Koochiching County is a mouthful. And I'm sitting here today with Paul Nevenin, who is the director of the KETA office, and Jenny Herman, who represents the Small Business Development Center as a satellite office in the same office space here, downtown International Falls, right next to the Wells Fargo building.
Correct.
Well, thank you guys very much. One of the things that is fun for me is to be able to come in and ask a lot of questions that I think people have on their minds about where do we go about things. And the reason I reached out to you guys for this chat today is because I'm doing a series called Small Towns, Big Ideas that really focuses on entrepreneurship and small business within Koochiching County. And as I'm talking to small business owners and entrepreneurs really, and those that want to fall in that category, people are always looking for resources. Where do we get started? How, I need help with this or that or more clarification here. Because as much as they have that idea, how do they translate that into a business? How do they develop success? You guys really have available to them a lot of the tools that they may not have, right, and services that you can provide. And I wanted to be able to introduce you to the community and talk a little bit about how the two of you can help support small business here.
Beautiful. Well, let's put some context, I guess, as a starting point.
Sure.
That in Koochiching County, there's roughly 4,000 businesses, or 400 businesses. Sorry, you got
Okay.
confused. 400 businesses.
That's why we have the math person.
Yeah.
Check our data.
And 90% of those have less than 20 employees or less.
Okay.
So there are a great deal of small businesses within the county, and all flavors and types. And so, yes. In this day and age of communication and the internet, it is amazing how there's still confusion and people have trouble finding the right pathways to either get information or to get resources. So we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and get more information out. And part of the problem too is just it's alphabet soup. There's been over time a whole host of organizations that have come and gone or have gone through different iterations. And so the KEDA, there's the KCDA, there's the Koochco, there's all these organizations, and people kind of
you're right.
They can't make the distinction between these groups. So the KEDA is the lead economic development organization that was created through statute to support the city and the county as the lead agency for economic development.
It's a state statute?
It was created under state statute, but it's
Okay.
basically a joint powers between the City of International Falls and Koochiching County to direct the economic development efforts.
Okay.
Economic development writ large, meaning both business recruitment and business retention.
Okay.
Certainly recruitment is the most difficult when you look at trying to bring somebody into the area versus growing what's already here.
Right.
When you sit in this chair, as I've been here since 2001, 2002, one of the first things you realize is that we don't have we do have an entrepreneurial culture, but not a real strong, deep. Well, it doesn't have a lot of history. I shouldn't say it that way. It's not as strong the culture here, entrepreneurially, I think, is compared to other places, and there's a whole host of reasons for that. But a good indicator of that is if you go into a high school, we've done this, go into a high school class, 11th to 12th graders, and say, you've given any career thought, what are you going to do? And a lot of folks will, start rattling off different occupations.
Right.
And then at the end we say, is anybody here interested in working for themselves and creating their own reality and their own business? And no hands go. So, and it's not ingrained, and one of the big things, and we'll get talking about this later, is the whole junior achievement program that Jenny was instrumental. One of the best things that this organization did was, there used to be the SBDC. Jenny's role was at the college in a third-time capacity, hidden in the college. Very little awareness about the program and the resources. When Jenny started, you were half-time at the time, correct?
That's correct.
And then we brought Jenny in full-time, and brought everything under one roof
Okay.
so that we could try to do this one-stop shopping so people, and it was really a big, I think, step forward for this entrepreneurship culture, but also having somebody with Jenny's skills and the tools that support her through the UMD
Right.
Center for Economic
I think
Development.
people forget that,
Right.
as a satellite, that gives you access to all of that bigger range.
A ton of resources.
Resources.
and,
Yes.
and what those are. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So.
So I'm going to set the stage, and
Yeah.
I want to let Jenny speak to a lot of the specifics. But so that's kind of the framework of how we're organized here. And Jenny does get some funding through the UMD CED as part of a federal SBA. Well, we won't have to get in the weeds on that, but
Right.
she does get some funding for that, which is great.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, and I think the value, our board, the city and county have seen the value in what the work that Jenny's doing, working with both startup folks and people that are established through a whole host of where folks need help.
Right.
So always when the phone rings or somebody stops in, because we like when people stop in and just say, hey, I need some help. Always the first step is, where are you at? Let's visit with Jenny and assess where you're at. And I'll turn it over to Jenny and she can talk further about it.
So what's the first thing you do then when someone comes in?
Well, I like to tell people about all the resources that we have available, and that we are part of the University of Minnesota Center for Economic Development, which
Okay.
opens up a huge well of resources. We have 9 consultants in the region, and all specializing in different areas.
Okay.
We've got somebody in Grand Marais that does marketing, that's her specialty. We've got somebody, she does marketing and human resources. We've got an IT specialist, website person in Duluth that helps with website analysis and search
Okay.
engine optimization. We also have 2 previous commercial bankers there, so they really
Okay.
understand where
The
the financing part of it. We have someone in Grand Rapids that also has a great financial background and in human resources. And then in the Quad Cities now we've got a new consultant that really works with like lean manufacturing. She's got an engineering background and a manufacturing background. So we share all of these resources and work really well together and try to share all of the information so that we can get whatever area the client needs, some specific data or some very specific help. The other thing that is a huge resource is we have interns that work at the Center for Economic Development that can have access to the university library system.
which is just really very
The market research
progressive
and
it's
yes.
always current.
It's always current, and so we can pull really good industry reports and competitor reports, and they've got access to lots and lots of databases that the small business can't afford to pay for it to
Right.
access those databases.
Absolutely.
And then besides that, the SBDC is organized under DEED, which is the Department of Employment and Economic Development on the state level, and we have access to that DEED library.
Okay.
So, lots of resources there. So when I first meet with people, I say, I'm not the only person that, you're going to have access to. So I try to tell them what kinds of resources we have. We generally start talking about, what they're doing, or if it's existing business, what are their challenges, and then I try to put together a plan and provide the resources that are available to them. For startups, it's a great step-by-step. These are the steps that you need to take to start a business. And I can't stress enough how important a business plan is. To
Yes.
have that written business
Yes.
plan, and it tells you where are you going, how are you going to get there, and where are you now. It's a roadmap.
And you and I, we've done this with
Yes,
you
we have.
personally.
Yeah, and the people that
Maybe that's not a good. I maybe need a good reference.
but you know what? Statistically, the people that go through that process are more successful.
Because
So
Yeah.
the business failure rate for startups is very risky. There's a lot of risk involved, and if you can go through the process with a small business development consultant, then and go through a business plan and start looking at who your competition is, how you're going to compete, how are you going to price, all of those different areas that businesses need to look at. You're going to be more successful than the person that doesn't do that, and your chances of success have have gone up.
I
So-
also think another really important thing that comes from that, Jenny,
Mhm.
is we all give birth to our business baby.
Mhm.
And it's our baby, and it's perfect, and it's wonderful, and it's going to change the world.
Right.
That process takes people through deciding if everybody else wants to kiss your baby,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
before people are even getting to that point where they're starting to invest and take that risk,
Right.
they can have all of that data and determine at the end of the day, is this viable?
Exactly.
Is this something we want to start investing money in? Because small
Right.
business owners, money is a huge piece of it. But
Yes,
even
it
more
is.
so, it's the person that gets invested and the time and the commitment.
Right.
It is a big lifestyle
It
change.
is. And one of the things that I always say is that I don't want you to take your money that you've saved or your friends have saved or whoever you're going to get your funding from and risk that and lose that money. Because as much as we want more businesses to start up here, if
You
it's
really
not a
want them
viable
to
business and
sustain.
it's not going to be successful, I don't want you risking those funds.
And that's the outcome of a lot of your, well, not a lot, but that happens.
Oh, it happens quite often,
People
and-
come to the determination, you know what, I'm not ready, or
This
or
isn't
there's
viable.
a different way, or
Right.
maybe I need to get in on the manufacturing side of it. I mean,
Right.
it really can open doors as
Right.
much as it closes ones that maybe would have closed eventually
Right.
after quite a bit of loss.
Right.
Exactly. And the other point that I want to make is entrepreneurs are by nature enthusiastic and emotional and you know
Yes.
upbeat and really excited and very passionate. And so to kind of, you know, narrow them that thought process and get their plan in writing and discuss some of these other aspects of managing and owning a business,
Right.
you know, they're going to be able to make that decision based on facts instead of emotions.
Sure.
You know,
And it's still their
so
decision to make ultimately.
it is their decision
you
to
never
make.
tell anybody do or don't, or
Yeah.
that's a good idea, or that's a bad idea. All you're
Absolutely
doing
not.
is helping them
Right.
take a realistic
Mhm.
look at it. They're the purple and yellow and orange. You're the black and white.
Right.
something important too for the folks that are just understanding this too is Jenny's services are free, which is a huge,
Free and confidential.
and confidential.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if somebody comes in here with an idea,
Oh,
you know, rest
yes.
assured that it's confidential and
Yeah.
that Jenny, you know, that her
Honors
time
that.
is,
Yeah.
it's important.
And it's free services and you know, there is work that the entrepreneur needs to do. I don't write their
Absolutely.
business plan and I don't do their
You don't do the
financial
digging.
projections. I work with them to go through that process. So they're ultimately responsible for, you know, all the outcome of what the business plan looks like and what their financial projections may look like and
I'm
things
glad
like
that you clarify that, because I
Mhm.
think when people hear that their service is available to them, that means that things are done for them. And there are things that are done. I mean, you've got a framework.
Mhm.
You really give them a roadmap. I know that's
Yeah,
kind of
no,
a cliche,
yeah.
but there's systems in place
Right.
that you bring to the table, not only physically, but you also understand how they work and what the value is, so you're able to work with them. And there's a lot of work to be done before you are crafting something or providing a service. Really looking at, not every entrepreneur who has a fabulous service knows how to tell people that they have it, right? So I mean, I love that you gave that list of resources available through you,
Mhm.
marketing. So I mean, you can have something wonderful, but if nobody knows it and they don't know they need it,
Right.
then it's dead in the water.
And we do have challenges here for, in particular in the retail industry because, you know, we're limited in population and so it's really hard to have a niche market. A lot of times when somebody comes with a real niche idea that they want to start, I basically provide them with a lot of demographic information and who is your target market and this is how many people are actually here, you know, that are
As
within this
potential,
target market
right.
as potential clients, and then they can make the decision themselves on you know, is this going to be successful, or then they go back and they say, yeah, maybe we need to tweak this a little bit, maybe we're not going to be so niche, and then add some other products or different services, and so they can really appeal to a larger population.
Well,
And we're also have a lot of we also have to keep in mind that we have a huge another population in Fort Francis who are our potential customers, and we've got some demographic data from that that from the Fort Francis, and so we've got a lot of information about, you know, what do they buy, you know, what
But
are
also,
the
how do you reach that market? Because
Right.
that border
Right.
there is,
Right.
Can
is
be.
something unique to us.
Yes.
It can be an asset if,
Mhm.
if you understand it,
Yes.
or a challenge
Mhm.
if you don't manage it right. And
Right.
and that, I'm really glad you brought that up because that's another entire, I think, piece of this conversation.
Right.
One thing I want to say too is that I've done a couple of interviews with local entrepreneurs already that are going to be part of the series,
Mhm.
maybe before or after you guys. And what I'm finding is that there is a limited local market if you're looking just a touch here. Both of these entrepreneurs have really found the meat, and it's meaty, of their success.
Yeah.
Not reaching our local market at all.
Mhm.
So they're people that live here and generate an income off a small business,
Mhm.
and their clients are international actually. So I want to remind people
Yes.
that there is a market beyond our county, but you can still be a very successful business from
Oh,
location in
absolutely.
this
I work
county.
with a lot of clients that sell out to their products outside of the
or
area.
services, yeah.
And that is even great. That is even a better effect for our local economy because we're bringing new money in. It's not
Right.
circulating. I mean, and that's important
oh,
too.
I like that.
But
okay.
bringing those new dollars in from outside of the area
Yeah.
it has an even greater impact.
I think it's remarkable that a lot of people don't understand that there are people doing business internationally, or
Right.
sending
Mhm.
products or services throughout,
services.
you know, and that's the other thing that we've been able to do is, Jenny mentioned access to people. We've had seminars on exporting where we can bring people that we in fact convened a group with Canadian Customs, Minnesota Export Office to talk about if you're going to export into Canada, what are some of the things you need to be mindful of? What are some of the, you know, cross-border issues?
Just unique to that
Right.
Yeah.
that part of being.
And beyond that too, I mean, the advent of technology and the internet, of people making sales on the internet, that has a whole host of things with that, in terms of audience, but also technology. Jenny also is a QuickBooks guru. A lot of clients that have been around for a while that, you know, have questions or issues surrounding QuickBooks. In fact, Jenny just had a seminar workshop last night. So continue to adding value even after people get established. So there's this whole life cycle for entrepreneurs as they go through it, and
Right.
you know, this office and Jenny in particular is there for that whole process, depending on where people are.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the other thing too. We talked about this is the local lenders, that oftentimes before people go to the local lender first is this whole startup process, or
Yeah.
even if they're buying the existing business, to really go through the financial projections and have a game plan so that when they go to the lender, they're prepared to answer those questions. Because the lenders, again, want them to be successful, but they're going to make sure.
But they have someone else they have to answer to.
That's right.
Right.
And there is
Yeah.
And
a
it's
process.
getting tougher all the time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It's interesting. Both, I'm thinking of two particular entrepreneurs that I've interviewed. In their own way, their own voice, or their own communication, have brought up that financial piece. And we all like to be dreamers, right? But success to the bank may look different than success looks to us as an entrepreneur. That's, again, we're black and white over here. And one of the things I've asked, and I'm asking other entrepreneurs as I open up these conversations, is before you went into business, had you defined what success would be to you? And I'm finding that both of these particular entrepreneurs I'm thinking about have gone through been doing this for a while and learning as they go, as everybody does. And success has changed and
Right.
evolved.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's come to the point where my bills are paid, including my employees. I'm, doing okay month to month and having the life that I want. But ultimately, I really, really like doing this.
Yes.
This
They're passionate
I
about
can't
what they
think
do.
of not doing this.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of different ways people label success. And really it's up to that entrepreneur to take ownership of what that is to them.
Right.
It's really
And
fascinating.
it's fun to see.
It is.
It's fun to see those
It's really
successes.
exciting.
And there's
I
a lot
feel-
of them. There's
yeah.
a lot of them around International Falls.
We started a number of years ago the Labovitz Awards, recognized entrepreneurs in the region,
Yeah.
different size companies, and we've nominated a number of businesses from town. And that's the other thing is you got to, you know, celebrate your successes and
Absolutely.
let them
Yes, you
know.
do.
And again, even if they're on some sort of continuum where they're just starting out or
Yeah.
getting, that's why
Right.
they have awards for new entrepreneurs, seasoned entrepreneurs, mature
Right,
entrepreneurs.
sure.
So it's important to recognize those folks. But and we've had this conversation as well, where people come to the realization, and Jenny will say, "Well, are you sure you want to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, to
Yeah.
make this happen?" And they go,
Mhm.
"Well, I didn't, I'm
No,
I'm not ready for that."
No, I'm not working weekends.
I
Well,
know. I
what
want
if your employees
weekends
don't
off.
show up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it is great to celebrate the successes and to acknowledge the entrepreneurs and thank them for taking that risk. And so we really like to do the Labovitz Awards to do that. And
And
maybe
can you tell
we,
people what the Labovitz Award is so they know what you're...
Joel Labovitz was the founder of Maurice's, and he
Which is based in Duluth.
which is
Correct.
based in
It's a
Duluth.
huge company based.
And he was a great supporter of entrepreneurship. The University of Minnesota business is called the Joel Labovitz School of Business, and they have these awards were a way to thank the entrepreneurs that have taken that risk. And so every year, and they've done it for
It's been a while.
20 years?
at least I think they had their 20-year.
Yeah, 25 years.
Last year, 25 years, and so they've been recognizing these entrepreneurs for a long time. And it's just a way to show
The entrepreneurship
recognition.
works.
Yes, that entrepreneurship does work, and they provide a lot of jobs and
And a lot of money in the
and a
economy.
lot of money in the economy.
So, and the reason I asked just for clarification on that is because it's not something that KEDA does. The Joel Labovitz Awards are a regional.
Regional.
They're regional.
Yep, and those celebrations really, that actually takes place in Duluth, and we've had several entrepreneurs
Yes, we have.
from town. And I would really encourage people to take a look at that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I really wanted to talk about small business in this way, and you brought it up, is we have a culture here of people looking to be employed. I mean, that's really very traditional, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
A mill culture.
And
Mhm.
and when you're going to the schools and you don't have students even dreaming yet that they could do whatever they want, I think what's happening is there's not really an awareness of identifying really what small business does in this community
Mhm.
and what that success is for kids. I mean, when you're 16, 17, 18, you're just looking for the newest hottest car and what's the easiest way to get to it.
Right.
So I want to really elevate the awareness of small businesses in this town so
Mhm.
that for dreamers it becomes something interesting to think about. As consumers in our community,
Mhm.
we have an understanding of how hard these guys are working
Mhm.
and how when we are able to spend our money there, that that means this kid over here got to play hockey this year, right? This kid over here got a new winter jacket this
Mhm.
year. Because the other thing I found about entrepreneurs, and I don't want everybody tapping entrepreneurs for money, but they are very appreciative and tend to be very good at giving back to
Yes,
the
they do.
community.
Absolutely.
And I think, International Falls and Koochiching County in general has that culture of giving back
Yeah.
to
Very generous.
the community and helping others.
That's a great
And
segue,
there's
though.
a big support system.
Yes.
That's a great segue, though, to the junior achievement. One of the goals
Mhm.
that we've talked about is how do you create an entrepreneurial culture? It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you've got to commit to over time. And Jenny started the junior achievement program in the schools throughout the county, actually. But Jenny, why don't you talk a little bit about the program? It's a really good one.
Well, we started the Junior Achievement Program, which is actually a worldwide program. It's been around since 1919, and to promote financial literacy and entrepreneurship and career development in K through 12 schools. So we actually start with kindergartners and go all the way up to 12th grade. I have a host of volunteers that have been just remarkably good at giving their time back to the schools. and there's different curriculum
For age.
for each, and it's very age appropriate. They have second graders that start a hot dog stand and actually go through the steps
That maybe people would go through with
of
you.
doing a business.
Yeah.
They have to buy their merchandise, they have to do their marketing, they have to open up their store, they have expenses, and at the end of the day, they calculate if they've made a net profit or not. So it's really fun, and we have a global marketplace curriculum that I've been doing for ninth graders, and really talking about the global economy and how do you compete on a global economy, and if you are going to sell internationally, what kinds of things do you need to be aware of to do that? The cultures are different. You have to be so aware of the cultures and the proper business etiquette and all of those things.
That.
And again, I'm very fortunate. My son-in-law is vice president of international sales for a company that sells amusement park equipment, and it's huge over in Dubai, and he goes to he goes to Saudi Arabia, and he actually has a huge market over there. And he lives here in International Falls, and he does it from International Falls.
And you look at
Right.
him, you're out and about, and you see, you
Right.
have no idea,
Yeah.
Just got back from Dubai, and he sold
Yeah.
a bunch of
And he's going to London next month, or actually next week. And
So you can live you can have
Yes,
a really
you can.
fantastic thing
Yeah.
going on, and
Right.
fall asleep at night in
Right.
Koochiching County.
And then as the kids get older, we add, okay, it's talking about career assessment and career choices. So, we go over a lot of different careers and try to get them to start thinking about, hey, what do you like? What are your skills? What are your interests? Do you want to be inside working, or do you want to be outside working? So that when they can start making those decisions about what do I want to do, and start planning for that early, because the sooner they start planning, the better chances are that they're going to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's, I think, with the power of that program. It
Right.
runs from K through 12,
Right.
and it builds on itself as you go up the
Right.
grade level.
And we talk about how to finance a business and
Why are we
taking
doing
care of
that
your
for
personal
adults, Jenny?
finances.
Why is it happening in school? Can
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
show up for those classes?
Well, and my goal is, this is the 5th year, and we've had K through 12 enrollment
kids
or
coming to see you?
participation for the last 4 years. So I'm hoping in 12 years we're going to have a great skill set for those
Walking in to see you.
10th, 11th, and 12th graders.
Yeah.
They're going to be ready to go. They're going to have a really good, clear understanding about what they want to
Yeah.
do, and entrepreneurship might be one of those choices. So.
But even for
It's
it to
fun.
get on their radar, I mean,
Right.
because we do that when we go in the schools. How many people are there? And no hands go up, and we would love to start seeing hands go up, and then go further. And
Right.
the other thing, that program that we've in concert with the chamber is CEOs in the classroom, where you bring people from the business world into the classroom, and they talk about what they do, and they talk a little bit about preparing for
Right.
careers.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because of some of the questions the kids ask. But I think
That's
there's
always
a
interesting.
Yeah.
there's a disconnect. I mean, when you're sitting around the dinner table, and it's like, well, what do you do?
Yeah, what does
what-
that mean?
Yeah.
Right.
What does
My dad's a this or that, or my mom's a
Yeah.
this or that.
Yeah, I don't
my
know,
mom's a
again.
social worker. What does a social worker do? I mean, what's your day like? And so that's a really good program too, just about raising awareness, getting people thinking about careers, and thinking about the other part of that was just in fiscal literacy, the program where you say, hey, you think $10 an hour is a good wage? And if you're
And then what
15 years
happens?
old, all the hands go up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's do some budgeting on that. If you make $10 an hour, here's how much you're going to make a month.
I love that.
If you're going to live in an apartment, here's what it's going to cost. If you got a car, a payment, a cell phone, and all of a sudden, the realization, oh my God, there's no money left for $10 an hour.
Right, I'm short, and I don't have a 4-wheeler or
or else they have all those things.
or
and
a
they don't-
boat or any of those things yet.
Yeah.
And so how am I going to get there?
Right.
So
Real practical.
it does.
That's a real wake-up call type
Mhm.
situation, and I've known of other communities that have done that too. And I think it's a wake-up call for some adults.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Again, I love that we're doing this with kids, but I keep thinking, well, why aren't we doing that for adults too? Because they missed it. Kids in school, they look at careers. You know who they're exposed to all day long? They know exactly what teachers do. it's a known
Right.
job if they ever decide they want to go into it.
Right.
But you ask them about anything else, and there's really no idea of what that job might mean. They might know an income attached to it or an expectation, but not what that job means. And I also like that you're doing that because we only have so many occupations in Koochiching County that kids are exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so being able to expose them to things otherwise,
Mhm.
your son-in-law and what he does, that's important to get them to also be more open to exploring other
Right.
things that they can do. We got doctors, we have teachers, we have physical therapists, we have paper makers, we
Mhm.
have
We have chemists. We have,
sure.
There's a lot of jobs that are happening here at International Falls, and those kids can start making those decisions. Okay, do you think someday I'll want to move back here? Probably. They'll say, oh, I want to get out of here, and
Of course we do it at that age.
and we say, that's
Go.
right. Go get your education. Maybe get some experience underneath your belt. But then we want them to come home,
We do.
and we want them to bring their skills home because that provides us with a better community.
It benefits
and
at every level.
and so we talk a lot about, okay, if you want to be a nuclear physicist, International Falls may not be, where you're going
Right.
to end up living. And so if you want to live at International Falls or in northern Minnesota, this is what's available.
But you could
And it's
be
a
working
wide range.
But you could also work in that industry and still be based here.
Right, and that's the other thing about
And I-
technology.
And that's coming
Right.
to be more and
It
more.
is.
Yeah,
Really,
and
where you
people can
live,
work
can have-
remotely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We have people in the community right now that are part of larger companies, organizations
Right.
that are able to work remotely. As long as they've got internet and good telecom, they can function.
Right.
Which I think leads me to the bigger picture of broadband. There's that
Mhm.
conversation going on, right?
Mhm.
Which means that we have access,
Mhm.
better access to maximizing technology, and that's just a mention. But also looking at our local airport and how that plays a role in this community and affects all of those things. We are very remote, and we love that. But when you need to be able to get places or communicate, having that broadband come into the community and having an airport that makes
Mhm.
that happen.
Critical assets.
These are critical,
Very
critical
critical.
assets, and I love that you brought that up. I love that term because there's always a lot of why this, why that, why not this, why not that.
Mhm.
And you have to look at all of these things that maybe aren't very sexy overall, but they're critical to make what your core of your business or your lifestyle here
Very critical.
meaningful to you and worth
Mhm.
worth whatever it is to you to be here.
Right.
And we talked to a number of people that summer here. And they said, as long as I have access to the internet and I can fly in and out of here on a semi-regular basis, I can summer here or I can transition to year-round. So a lot of people that don't use the airport, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the importance of having that connection to the outside, where you can get on a plane here at 6 o'clock in the morning and basically be anywhere in the U.S. later that day.
Right.
Right.
And there are people that do that. And
Yes, there are.
having a functioning airport with daily commercials. I serve on the airport
I
commission.
know you do, and I worked there for a little while.
Yeah, so
I mean, I saw it. I mean,
I
it was
spend a
really
lot of
great
time-
eye opener for me.
and
Yeah.
not only commercial service, but we have a lot of folks that general aviation that come in here, fly in on corporate jets that a lot of people never see and they don't. But the ability to have an airport with the capabilities that we have, and somebody like Thor Anderson and his team at the airport that are the welcoming committee for a lot of these folks. It's the first person they see.
And
They do a
again-
great job.
And people don't really don't know that that's happening,
Right.
and so there's no way really for them to understand what the value of that is, because it is a niche thing for sure, but man, does that affect our economy
Right.
and our quality of life here.
And it helps to support Boise too. I mean, they have they need that airport in order to sometimes get
Yes,
parts,
absolutely.
or they need
Well,
to.
your son-in-law, I mean, if he's flying to Dubai and London, he's not driving to some other airport.
Absolutely.
He's hopping on here.
He does, and one of the things that he said that was very critical was, I wouldn't be able to do my job if I didn't have that airport here in International Falls.
Mhm.
He would have to be somewhere else, because occasionally he does need to get out on a really quick, short notice and go and resolve some problems.
Sure.
So it is vital for him.
And it's becoming more important.
It is.
The other thing, just in terms of this, because we do get summer visitors and we get visitors that are here just as part of their, lifestyle.
Yeah.
They love the area. Is this whole notion of mentorship with young entrepreneurs, people that are just starting. I think it's invaluable. Anybody watches Shark Tank, you get this interplay between people that have been there, and
it can be harsh.
It can be harsh
for a reason,
but it can be very helpful. And I know there's a young
harsh and helpful sometimes very much go hand in hand.
There's a young business group that's forming.
Yeah, I will be interviewing them as well.
Yeah, and I think being able to connect with some of these successful entrepreneurs that have been through failures, and say, hey, it's part of the process.
It's part of being an entrepreneur.
And and here's what I went through, and I think the more that we can plug into those folks, and we always want to remind folks about lenders too, bankers that can provide guidance and some real good practical suggestions. So there's a whole host of resources beyond the monetary that I think are really important to the larger picture.
I don't think people realize how many resources really are available here, and that it's not limited by this office, that you've got such reach.
Absolutely, and the chamber plays a big role too.
Yes.
We partner with the chamber to provide training to businesses. So we try to identify the training needs of the small business community and then provide that training. So that's another part of my job that besides just the consulting, I don't spend 8 hours a day meeting with people or working on their financial projections or things like that. There's a lot of different things that I do, and so it's primarily meeting with clients, working with the Junior Achievement Program, and then identifying needs for the business community and getting them trained, and working with the chamber.
A good example. Oh, go ahead.
And I would just want to say that it's been really nice to have working with Paul, because he's kind of let me say, let me look at what does the business community need. You're the one that's really seeing those existing businesses and those entrepreneurs, and let me really develop what area, and work in the areas that I feel are going to be most effective. So, and we really try not to overlap. There's no sense in different agencies providing the same types of resources. So, working with the chamber, we both provide different types of resources to the business community. So, we're really aware of
Jenny works the quad. What do you go, left to right? Or
I go left to right.
Left to right all the time. I go right to left or diagonal.
Right.
So sometimes
we keep moving ahead.
But it's a good point. I mean, we just hosted a Google workshop. People have websites and they think, I got a website.
That's good enough.
The optimization of websites, or how young people use their phones for everything. If you're driving through the community and you're looking for whatever.
Preach to the choir, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we overlook it. We think that.
And it's the tourists, the tourists that aren't familiar with it, and we've got to get all the money we can out of those tourists. And so if the tourist is looking for a massage because they did something to their back, we want to be able for them to, type in massage and be able to get a hold of somebody.
That muskie was so heavy. I twerked my back.
Right. Well,
or, if it's a rainy day, what
else is there to do?
Maybe I want to go visit the quilt shop, or something like that.
I have my own spiel on that, but I loved seeing that. Well, there's such benefit to doing that and doing it right. Yeah. Such a benefit.
So I just keep plugging away and try to make a small impact over time. And I think that we've got a great business community. Our existing businesses, I think, are doing very well. Everybody struggles, and you've always got some of those that are struggling. And sometimes it's just because it's not necessarily the economy or the location. Sometimes they're just not good managers of their businesses.
And it's not because they're not good
people, it's not that we're not supporting them or whatever.
They just need a little help.
Right.
Ask for it.
Right.
Well, and exactly, and know your role too. I mean, Jenny refers folks like, you need to talk to your accountant or your attorney on this, because that's outside of my realm. Know your role. Know what role you can play, and then try to find gently nudge people that way. Are there people that really know they're really good mechanics, but they hate the bookkeeping side of things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, and
Right.
so the bookkeeping
You know
gets away from them, and then that leads to a chain reaction. So, you've got to make sure that they understand it. As
Right.
boring as that is, or technology, a lot of people are afraid of technology. Well, geez, I don't know. I don't know much about optimization of a website. Well, there are a lot of people out there that do, and it's worth the investment,
And we
or at
can
least a
connect you with some
workshop
of
that
Right.
we can
Right.
help you understand it better. And
Yeah.
And those can be aha moments if people are open to that. That can be an absolute game changer for a business. Really powerfully.
Oh, yeah. And again, as more and more people use technology, and that being able to adapt and utilize it to the fullest is going to be important going forward.
One thing you mentioned that I think, as a small town, knowing everybody and all of that goes with it, and this is no different in this small town than it is anywhere else, but entrepreneurs fail. There's a reason that, not all the time, but oftentimes there is, I call it thinning the herd, right? Or entrepreneurs, the successful ones, tend to move on from something that didn't work with more knowledge, more experience, more resources, because they've
Right.
learned to ask, they've learned what they can do and where they need help. So I think as a community that supports entrepreneurs, we need to know that entrepreneurs are risk takers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And risk
absolutely.
takers, sometimes it doesn't pan out.
Right. It's not going to work out.
And so don't look at them as failures,
Right.
or, but understand that can very often be part of the most successful process as an entrepreneur, is continuing to move forward.
Right.
Identifying what you don't know, identifying those who do, and continuing. I mean, that's such an incredible personal, I think, personality thing, just that personal attribute of being able to say that didn't work, but I'm going to keep at this.
Right. And they're always going to, the true entrepreneurs are always, they are going to have some failures along the line. So, but they're going to keep going, and they're going to, keep trying.
And we need to support them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, to understand that they've taken a risk, but they've taken it in our community. I think we need to honor that they continue to reinvest in our community through that process.
Right.
To really be more supportive of them as people. I think there's a personality there that if you want successful entrepreneurs in your community, you also have to understand that process sometimes there's bummers.
It's challenging.
Yeah,
it's very
it is.
challenging.
And these are very brave people.
And, again, thanking them for taking that risk.
Yeah.
Right.
They've given it all.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to have Jenny in this office, and because as risk becomes more and more difficult in this culture, where the bankers, the lenders, it is, and it has to, and so to minimize that risk, to be better prepared, so that that's why going through the process, and even having said that, even going through the process, sometimes you're gonna, for whatever reason.
Oh, sure. There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely not. There's not a guarantee. It's managing. It's doing the best you can with that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Identifying as much as you can and doing the best you can.
And look at video rental, or I'm just trying to think of some professions that have been so gutted out by the internet.
Like VHS rentals.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
We can
Right.
get it on our
I'm going
phone
to start
now.
up a video rental right now. Well, maybe that's not, or what am I thinking of? Somebody that helps plan vacations, a travel agent.
Oh, travel.
Sure.
People
yeah.
go on. Remember, everybody had a travel agent in small communities, and there's
Right.
still a role for those folks. But things are constantly changing, and,
Right.
and sometimes timing. It's a question of timing. You start something up, and then the recession hits, and everything. Look what's going on in the Iron Range too. So, one of the other things about entrepreneurial culture is helping to create some diversification, so that we're not just dependent on one industry. We've
Or
got
one segment.
one
of that
segment.
industry.
We've
Rayanne
got
Conant is one of my favorite examples of that.
Yeah.
That Swanky Sweet Pea.
Yeah, is to provide some diversification and looking at some things differently. And as Jenny said, a lot of these folks are not even selling locally; they're selling outside the area.
Right.
Not because they don't want to, really. They're
The
not
market's
keeping
also-
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, in fact, you might find when you're out in the world, you might find something that was made here, which is a really cool thing.
Yes, it is.
It's a really cool
It
thing,
is.
and you might not even know it. I know
Right.
that like wholesaling and
Yeah.
that's happening.
Yeah.
I remember the Seinfeld episode when they were trying to figure out ways to get bottles to Michigan so they could get the
2 cents,
the
5 10 cent.
They could,
Or
and
go to
they,
Connecticut, or wherever they can maximize
so they
the
figured
return.
out to use the mail truck on
Yeah.
weekends, and it's like beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
using all of your assets.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
And you know what? If someone is doing something that you think is crazy, just watch.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You're crazy. Crazy to you might be absolutely brilliant.
The other thing too is we look at what some of the needs or some of the opportunities that we see too, and I think there's opportunities going forward around tourism. You know,
I would agree.
and
I think
some
the
other
tourism
areas.
industry has growth potential.
And I want to talk about, I know that you're going somewhere with this, but I'm going to interrupt you because I own the camera.
I'm used to
just
it.
teasing. But tourism, people roll their eyes when they hear tourism. Oh, those are minimum wage jobs, this, that. But I think that's a really shallow look at tourism. Because what tourism does is people are actually paying to come here and test drive your community. And I know for a fact that we have businesses in this community that would not exist here if someone hadn't decided to vacation here. And got
Oh
it.
yes, absolutely.
So when people take a shallow look at tourism, it bothers me.
Yeah.
A healthy tourism industry in a town, in a region like ours, and being realistic about what that industry is, too. You can't force it to change.
Right.
But to looking at what it is and finding out how, being creative, and finding out how we can turn that into an asset, that's completely possible.
Yes.
Completely possible.
Yeah, the challenge. I mean, and there are some real challenges with some of the tourism because it has a tendency to be seasonal.
All tourism does, though.
Right. Well, right.
It's not unique to us.
And it's very competitive out there. Place people can go now just anywhere. But one of the great assets that we have here, the reason we're all here, is Rainy Lake and Voyageurs National Park, and I think that's an opportunity that just is ripe for additional exploration about what else can be done in and around Voyageurs National Park. And there are some people that have really done well adapting and figuring it out. But I think that's just one area that comes to mind.
Well, and if that draws them, then there's ancillary things, or
Right.
there's fingers to that.
Right. And we've had tourists come in here and visit every year. Maybe it started as a young child and grown up, and then all of a sudden they go, I want to live there. And we have several of those
Yes.
people that have bought summer homes or even
Yes.
decided to move here full time because they love it. How do you beat
Don't
that?
tell us it doesn't work.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at just in our short history. You look over at Lake of the Woods as an example, and this is another thing that's important to do is look at models where it's worked elsewhere, or look at why is this successful over there and why doesn't it work here. But Lake of the Woods, how ice fishing now has surpassed the winter business is larger than the summer business. I mean, who would have guessed that 15 years ago?
Nobody wants to go up to the cold.
Right. So now they're,
Yeah.
and look at the reach that industry has, ice fishing in Lake of the Woods. I mean, they're into the Chicago market and beyond. People are
Oh,
they're
far
busing.
from Missouri.
They're busing
Yeah.
people up.
Indiana, you see it all
Yeah.
the time.
Oh yeah.
And does that necessarily translate to Rainy for not necessarily for a host of reasons, but that doesn't mean several people have tried really developing the ice fishing, and that's just one example. I keep thinking that there's got to be a number of things.
Well, and as we provide more infrastructure for the resorts,
Exactly,
And those
it
things
might
don't have-
allow them to stay open in the
That's right.
winter because that's really
More
important.
sustainable. And to remember that you don't just snap your fingers and have something develop and become a destination. It takes time to establish, to reach the right people, and to make those right connections. There is a time that that didn't happen overnight with Lake of the Woods.
Right.
As much as it might have come on our radar, that had been something in the works that has developed over time. A boom doesn't happen by accident. There has always been an effort quietly behind that, making that happen. So patience, is, and the reality, understanding that, yes, we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to stop yet because we're getting so close. So for community-wise to understand that time, things take time to build as well.
Right.
We might, like I said, we're seeing that now, but we have no idea what the groundwork that was
Right.
laid to have that.
And another good example is even the sturgeon fishing contest that they've been promoting on Rainy River. I mean, how that's grown and brought lots of people in from out of the area to experience that.
And that's crazy.
Yeah,
I caught my
so-
first sturgeon this year, and I'm like, I want to do this all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's on my bucket list. I've never.
It was on my
done-
bucket list. That's why I did
Okay.
it.
All right.
I'll show you later. You're
Okay.
gonna die.
Okay, good.
I mean, I lived here my whole life, and I never did it.
Yeah,
Shame on me. You too.
yeah.
It's-
So.
I mean, and that's the experience that people come for,
Mhm.
just in case that might happen
Right.
again. Well, I could visit with you guys all day long, and maybe I will. After we turn it down. I'm sure you don't have any, it doesn't sound like you've got anything else to do, right?
No.
So I want to thank you for what you do in our community and for hanging in there with us as we're all trying to get somewhere good.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that this reaches a lot of people and makes a lot of different people think about entrepreneurship as a consumer or as a potential entrepreneur, or maybe even as someone who sees they have something to give to the broader community. Have conversations. Don't, ask people for information. Reach out to you guys. Get the right answers from the right people, and let's, be good stewards of what you guys are bringing to our community. Anything you want to add before you get back?
Well, I just want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to tell people more about the services that we provide,
Yeah.
and hopefully inspire a few people to start their own business or
Come in and see us.
me.
They have really good coffee. It's
Yeah.
Very good.
Again, I would thank you as well for providing this opportunity, and I would encourage people to stop in, call, set up some time. Depending, it doesn't matter where you're at in the process.
Yes. Right.
Again, Jenny's services are free and confidential. She serves the whole county and actually a little south of the county. Her geography is quite large that she serves. But we really encourage people to stop in and visit or call 283-8585. Kita.
85.
Ask for Paul
That's
or
right.
Jenny, but Jenny's really the resource person that around entrepreneurship and retention.
And I know what you guys have available here. It's vast. I mean, it's really incredible, both of you. Thanks.
One thing we don't have, I used to have a big suitcase full of money under the desk, and that's gone.
Yeah.
So that doesn't
I-
exist.
And there really is no free
There's
money.
no free money. There's no grants, really. I mean,
Right.
Well, the grant people tell you there is. So
I googled grants, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that. Well, let's start
well,
here.
but here's another thing, and thank
Yeah.
you for that, because everybody says there's free money out there. So it's interesting to me how hard people will work for free money, but not
Just-
how hard they'll work for
right.
a better chance
Right.
of money. That's huge. Thank you for that free money thing, because it don't
Right.
fall into those traps.
Well, there's misnomers, and then there's commercials on TV, where you can get this free money to start your, and it's not really
You're
realistic.
actually paying for that free money in
Yes.
some way,
So
shape,
you're
or
going to
form.
end up paying for it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and just to thank the entrepreneurs in International Falls and Cooch County. They work really
Oh my
hard,
gosh.
and they try, and they're passionate, and so to thank them for taking that
And they're
risk.
really vulnerable. I mean, these are people that bear themselves
Oh, yeah.
in a really
Yeah.
personal way, because they're always emotionally attached to it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
celebrate your entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
sure you direct people to Jenny and what's your name? Paul. I'm just kidding. If you don't get a chance to give Paul Nevin a hard time every now and then, he falls asleep at his desk. So come on in, give Paul a hard time. I hope this starts something. I'll be back to see you guys.
Great.
Anytime something is timely, let me know. I want you to reach out to me so that we can continue to have this conversation and see what we can do.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.